Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Northern Lights. We're delighted that you've joined us here today. I'm Ross Yeager, Director of Wake County's Northern Regional Center. And with me, as always, is Betty Murchison, the Chair of the Northern Regional Center Community Advocacy Committee. It's always my pleasure to do anything with Betty, but I think this show has really been a win for the community. And Betty, to be honest, is the one that's always pushing and coming up with the themes and ideas for these shows. So she gets 100% of the credit on that. But this month's episode, going into the holiday season, and Thanksgiving is tomorrow, we wanted to highlight some folks in our community that have been working to provide resources for families in need for a long, long time. And I'm pleased to say that I know a good number of the folks that are here, and it's my absolute privilege to know them. And they just do good work just for the sake of doing what's right. And there's something so pure and noble about what they all do, and they all contribute in their own ways. And you'll hear that as we get into it. But just again, for the folks that this might be their first episode joining us, this show is brought every month to you on Facebook, Northern Regional Center's page, as well as Rollsville Chamber's YouTube channel. And these are the folks that sort of sponsor or that are behind this idea. This is the Northern Regional Center Community Advocacy Group. And these are a group of individuals that meet with Wake County and keep us sort of on the right path as far as providing services cohesively to the community. And a lot of these folks are ones that are actually representing organizations that do a lot of great work in the community. So we're pleased with that. But I want to turn it over to Betty so she can sort of explain. And this is really her idea to focus this year on health and healing after the year that was 2020, that was so different in so many ways. Her simple thought, which was a great thought, was to let's spend 2021 getting back to where we need to be. So, Betty?
Thank you, Ross. It's always a great pleasure to hang out with Ross and to bounce ideas off him. And he is always open to listening to different ways of doing things. So I am really pleased to partner with him and to feel like a true partner with Ross and with the Northern Regional Center and the wonderful people who make up this advisory committee. This year, our theme, as Ross said, was health and healing. Coming out of a pandemic unlike anything any of us had ever seen, we had a lot of things that we needed to handle and to take a good hard look at and to have these courageous conversations. So one of the things that we have addressed and we will continue to address and to look at is race relations. We need to look at the effect that racism has had on our communities and continues to have on our communities, and that impacts the health disparities that we saw during COVID. Who was likely to become infected, who was likely to suffer, who was likely to die from the disease. And we have other issues we want to address, such as the infant mortality and other issues surrounding our health. We also wanted to look at expanding partnerships. We have wonderful people in the community who are doing things that and supplying needs for the community that the Wake County Human Service can't do everything and be everywhere. And so the wonderful nonprofits and other partnerships we have in the community, it's important to highlight them. And that's one of the things we're doing today, as well as doing outreach and education, educating our community about the resources that are available and reaching out and making sure that they know who to call when they need help. So with that said, Ross will introduce the four wonderful panelists who will be bringing us information today about the resources they provide in our community.
Absolutely. And thank you, Betty. You set that up so perfectly, as always. So I appreciate it. I cheated. I went back a slide because I want you, and I know you can see my mouse, to look right in the center of that page at Rachel Morris. She is really the one that has made all this technology possible for us. Betty had the big ideas. Betty is really great for big ideas about doing a live show, but we didn't have a way to do it until Rachel stepped up. And she's just been so wonderful to not only allow us to do this, but she's the one that's making us all look good behind the scenes. I'm going to go ahead and move forward and let you know who our guests today are. We have Drew Brown from the town of Wake Forest. We have Mr. Gene Cross, Wake Forest Baptist Church, Community Connections Garden, and Church Neck. We have Denise Cottle, who was with the Northeast Community Coalition. And then we have Jen Haas Stedler, who was also with that organization, but specifically here representing their new community garden that they've just recently started. And we had one other guest we wanted to include, Joyce Hillenberg, who was out of town. She wanted very much to be a part of this show, and she's really another hometown hero that's done an awful lot of work. So Denise has agreed to sort of present on her behalf as well, just give a little bit of an update. But I want to first introduce Mr. Drew Brown as our hometown hero, not only because he does an awesome job with the town of Wake Forest, but also because of his leadership and the Northern Community Food Security Team. And I tell people often, and Drew has a passion for this work. And I remember one time I saw a presentation he did, and he entitled it, "Are You Hungry?" And that was something that just always kind of stuck with me, as seeing somebody that has a passion in being able to really do a lot of such positive work in the community that aligns so well with that passion. And Drew has been truly a great partner as we worked with the school system here, feeding the kids all of last year. He really pulled a network of folks in where we became, I think with one time, Drew, we were probably Wake County's largest food distributor. We had hundreds of people every day. But I could go on and on about Drew, but I'd just like to turn it over to him at this point. So, Drew.
Good morning, Roz. Good morning, Betty. Hello, everyone. My name is Drew Brown, Jr. I am the Town of Wake Forest Customer Service and Outreach Manager. The outreach portion actually just got added to my title in June because of what the work we've been doing with the Northern Community Food Security Team. So just to rewind a little bit, back in 2018, Ross and I, we were talking about some issues through the Community Advocacy Committee. And the biggest one that was jumping out at the time was food insecurity. So we talked and we decided to try to adopt the CAFN plan, the Capital Area Food Network plan. So we put a committee together, presented to the board. The town of Wake Forest was 100% behind it, and they've been 100% behind us ever since. Some of the things that we focus on, the major thing that we focus on is feeding our neighbors. And that's done in a lot of different ways. The community gardens are a huge resource, and we try to support them in whatever ways that they need support. The other is senior hunger, and that is probably one of our biggest challenges. And we partner with the Senior Center and going to have some ongoing partnerships with them. Then we have the children, and that's Backpack Buddies. And with Backpack Buddies, we are right now distributing to both the Northern Regional Center and to the Wake Forest High School. And the last piece of it is the hub. So back when COVID hit, CAFN, Wake County was able to get some money together. And when they were putting hubs in different areas of the state because it was just such a need. People needed to get to food that wasn't in the normal places, so to speak. So we did create a de facto drive-through at the Northern Regional Center, but once it got more structure, we were able to partner with one of our many partners, and Mike Berger and Tri-Area Ministries, to actually have a hub. So we have a 20-foot cool trailer on campus, on the town's property. And from that campus, we have about, it ranges anywhere from 8 to 15 different pantries that come and get food from us, and then they feed their flock. So it's really been a help so that those churches and I don't want to name them because I don't want to forget anybody, but it's really been a help for them. Most recently, we just did the turkeys for Thanksgiving, and we were able to distribute 400 turkeys to those pantries. We work with the Hope House. We deliver food there on Thursdays, and it's for anybody. But the Hope House has their mission, and they are centered in the northeastern part of Wake Forest, and they work with the Northeastern Community Coalition a lot. And you'll hear more about them today. They're a great partner. But that's just a little bit about what the NCFST does. I mean, we have bigger goals of things that we want to do, but just like everything, it takes money and volunteers. And we do have a volunteer page where you can sign up. But yeah, we definitely would like to help as many people as we can. Things that we do for our partners, and I think it may flash through in a minute. Ross, is that a screenshot or is that the live website? I think that is a screenshot. Okay. We created the sign for the garden, and you'll see that with the garden webpage. And it's something that we were able to do and put out there for them and partner with them to make sure it was, up to their liking. But anything that someone is doing in the Wake Forest community, we definitely want to try to help. But we're not just for Wake Forest. We're the northern community. And just this year, I think it was January of this year, we brought in Roseville as a partner, because Roseville was doing the exact same thing, but they had less resources and didn't have as a robust a program. And we just got a couple of their staff members, put them on our team, and now we have a bit better reach in the Northeast community and the northern part of Wake County because of that partnership. So I can go on and on. We definitely want to work with whoever needs assistance that's doing things to support Wake County residents, northern Wake County residents.
All right, Drew. I'm going to see if there's any questions out there. I don't know that there are.
I have a question.
All right.
Okay.
While we're waiting, Drew, I know that you are a spark plug in this work, but I don't think we can talk about food insecurity without lifting the name of Mayor Frank Eagles, former Roseville Mayor Frank Eagles, who was a champion in that area. Would you like to say a few words about his contribution to this as well?
Absolutely, and I think that recognizing him with the day of service is going to be huge going forward. But yeah, Mayor Eagles, when Roseville was starting their program, we met with them, and that's when I got to meet Mayor Eagles, and he did have a real passion for serving the need. I mean, he would do it in his own pickup truck. So definitely, thanks for bringing him up.
Yeah, I've seen him do that myself at a produce distribution I was assisting with in North Raleigh, and he came with not only his pickup truck, he got other volunteers to come as well, and made deliveries to area mobile home parks, and he was just a real not only an advocate, but he was a worker bee. What is it that you need from the community most right now, Drew?
Well, the thing we just need is just their I guess their ears and their advocacy, their partnerships. We have quarterly meetings. We'd love for them to come and listen and share ideas, because most of the ideas that we have come from our partners. We do have a blueprint of things that we want to address and attack, but most of them come from our partners giving us suggestions and ideas of things that they'd like to do that we as a town may have some connections to help. Just for example, the food hub, they needed a place to park the trailer, and we were able to park it there, but it also took some more complicated wiring and we're paying the bill. I mean, so it's things like that that we can help and do with because we have some resources in the town.
Great. And people can contact you if they're interested in volunteering or being a part of your team?
Absolutely. Via
Thank you.
email or phone. I'm sure you're going to put that out there for them. And I do want to add one other thing. Our mayor, Mayor Jones, and the board is 100% behind this initiative, which makes it a fun thing to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think we know why they're 100% behind it, because you are, Drew. I mean, I can't tell you how many problems Drew has solved for the food security team. Most recently, it looked like we had some additional funding, and it looked like we were going to lose the space that trailer is on that Drew mentioned. But I don't know how he did it. It's like, Drew just throws Hail Mary after Hail Mary, and they're always 100% complete. And he got us that space again for the duration of the extended funding. So that's why I think the town's behind it, Drew. They know what they have in you, and so they're going to support that, because they know that means some good is going to get done.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, Drew, so much.
Thanks, Drew.
And then I want to turn it over next to Gene Cross, who is someone that Betty and I have been working with Gene for years and years as well, too. So another member of our community advocacy committee, and Gene is well known for his work with the Community Connections Garden. I love to go and volunteer there, and I would encourage anyone that wants to learn about gardening or just spend some good quality time. There's something about doing work with your hands that you just cannot replace that. And it's just so fulfilling. But Gene does an awesome job with that garden. Retired from the Department of Ag, actually. But he also does critical work with an organization called ChurchNet, which is, and I'll let him explain it, but it's just a really great idea of and a good way for local churches to sort of organize around an idea of helping people. Gene is busier in retirement than I am with their regular job, but he's just such a wonderful, wonderful human being, a friend, and somebody that is admired by many. So, Gene, with that setup, I will turn it over to you.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for Ross and Betty for including me in this session this afternoon. So I'll begin by saying approximately 9 years ago, I decided I was going to retire from a long-term commitment and job with the Department of Agriculture. And I decided that I want to work in the community in various ways. And so I jumped in to two different organizations. One of those is ChurchNet, and I'll describe that in a second. And the other is the Community Connections Garden. So Ross, are you going to flip those slides for me? All right, great. So I'll start off by telling a little bit about the mission and the goal of ChurchNet. Its specific goal is to provide emergency financial assistance with utility costs. And we do a little bit of work with prescription medication needs for individuals who reside in Wake Forest, Youngsville, and Roseville. So as background, ChurchNet was established as a 501c. There were several different churches that came together. They saw a need there for folks who were not being able to meet their utility needs. And so that organization formed. And current board members include the individuals that I've listed here for various churches. They represent Wake Forest Baptist, they represent Roseville, they represent St. Catherine's, and of course the town, as well as myself, serve on that role. So specifically, how does ChurchNet operate? We partner with a number of churches, some 15 different churches in the community, as well as other nonprofits that have a concern with those folks who might not be able to meet their utility needs month to month. On a monthly basis, or actually on a weekly basis, ChurchNet volunteers screen their clients that come in. And depending on the need, we provide some financial assistance to individuals, specifically one time in 12 months, one specific time. The beauty with the way ChurchNet operates is that we don't provide money directly to the individual. We actually provide those funds directly to the utility or the respective pharmacy. Well, during COVID, that really threw a monkey in the operations that we had, because individuals came into a central office that's in downtown Wake Forest. We're thankful to the town of Wake Forest for assisting and providing that space for us. But with COVID, we were not able to meet individuals directly. And so what we're able to do, we set up a system where individuals actually are able to go to our website or either call in. They fill out a financial assistance request form that's on the website, and then a volunteer who comes into the office, physically comes into the office, is able to work and get the background information and then work through to make sure that we provide assistance to those individuals who may need that help overall. And just as background, ChurchNet, before I go into the garden, ChurchNet provides assistance to some 400 individual families on an average year. And it varies. This year and last year with COVID, that assistance has been less. We've not provided as much, but we're still there as a backdrop to other organizations that have really stepped up to assist. And so I've been involved with ChurchNet now for really over 9 years or so, almost 10 years. All right, we'll move and talk now a little bit about the church, the Community Connections Garden. You can imagine working in agriculture, specifically horticulture, for my entire career with the Department of Agriculture. When I retired, I had a strong interest in still maintaining connection with gardening. So let's flip the slide. One slide, there you go. The specific mission of the Community Connections Garden is to connect people to their neighbors, the land, and God by using sustainable agriculture to provide fresh local food for the hungry in our community. And we do that through specific goals. What we want to do is to actually connect people in the community. In doing that, we want to make sure that we're able to share information about how to grow food, not only provide that food, but specific information on how to grow that food so that others that might be interested in growing their own food might be able to do so. Even though the garden is specifically sponsored by the church, the Wake Forest Baptist Church, the garden is welcome. Everyone is welcome at the garden, just not members of the church. And we have members of the community that are involved in other churches, and we have some that are not involved in church at all. More than 80% of the harvest that we are able to make at that garden are contributed specifically to local needs, local community needs. We contribute to Tri-Area Ministry. We contribute to a mobile market that resides at Wake Forest Baptist Church. And then we contribute to a soup kitchen that's actually in Bunn. As the way the garden is set up, all the volunteers work together to accomplish garden tasks in the garden. Many gardens are set up so that individuals have plots in the garden. But we decided at the outset that we wanted to all work together to do what we needed to do in the garden. So everybody works on all crops. So we oversee the work at the garden by a council that provides the guidance for the work, what's going to be done in a specific year, how we're going to carry it out, what we're going to plant, that sort of thing, what types of tools that we need to carry out and do work in the garden. As I mentioned, all volunteers collectively work together in all areas of the garden. And then we have various positions that assist, in this particular case, garden coordinators. We have a secretary for the council, treasurer. We try to do communications, but the most important member of our team are the volunteers, specifically themselves, the gardeners. I wanted to share a little bit about our harvest overall since we started. The garden, we started in the fall of 2013 with a meager 304 pounds. That next year, we went to 4,200 pounds. And then this year, we've actually surpassed all of the years that we've done by actually harvesting 7,700 pounds, the bulk of which went to local area residents. During this time, since 2013, we've had over 6,800 volunteer hours that have contributed to the garden. As I mentioned, specifically, our food goes to Tri-Area Ministries, the Bun Soup Kitchen, and a mobile food market that's set up by Wake Forest Baptist Church. So we're really excited about the produce that we're able to provide to local residents. As I mentioned earlier, it's the volunteers that make it special. We could garden anywhere, but I think assembly and a fellowship that's made by those people who contribute and work in the garden from very young to very old is very, very important. So we count on our volunteers quite a bit. So I wanted to mention here as I sort of wind down, how do you volunteer? We'll flip the slide one time. Garden volunteers pay a $15 yearly fee per family to assist in covering the cost of supplies, but we don't really worry about that. If that amount can be waived for hardship. And then volunteers contribute or commit to working a minimum of 10 hours a year. Even though we keep up with the volunteer hours as a whole, we don't keep up with the individuals. We count on that as being a good faith effort on the volunteer that comes. Our garden hours during the active season from about March through the middle of November, we work there every Saturday, 9 to 12, and that's when the bulk of the work gets done. We're doing our plowing and our tilling and our weeding, planting, all of those activities. And then during the active times in the summer, on Wednesday mornings, we have a harvest that takes place also on Wednesday mornings. And so we invite folks to come out and volunteer one day or many days. And so when I left work, I started to think about what I wanted to do in my retirement. And I think the last slide here in this series sort of sums it up. I'm not sure where I found this quote, but it really describes what I wanted to do and I think really service in our community. I think the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. And that's what I've tried to do in retirement, both at the Community Connections Garden and at ChurchNet. I know this question might come up, and I wanted to answer it at the outset. How might I help? Well, the big thing that we need at both organizations, both ChurchNet and Community Connections Garden, are volunteers. Certainly with both organizations, we all struggle to find the necessary volunteers that need to carry out the mission of those respective organizations. And so we really would love to have volunteers from young to old to participate.
All righty, Gene. Thank you so much. I was going to say I wasn't able to participate as much as I wanted to, really at all this last year with the garden, and I really missed it. I really did. And one of the things I always think about was like, it would be very often after we would harvest on a Saturday that Gene would load up all the produce in the back of his truck and drive literally maybe a half a mile down the road and deliver it directly to Tri-Area Ministries. And I always thought about, and I don't know the exact distance, but the fresh fruit and vegetables that you're eating by and large, sometimes they've traveled hundreds or thousands of miles to get to your table. And this is an organization that is providing food that's less than a mile away. And it could not be any fresher. And it's going to those folks that, it's great when you donate Pop-Tarts and, spaghetti sauce, but to get fresh vegetables as part of a diet Absolutely. Is really making a significant difference in food security. So thanks for that.
I agree. That is just awesome work you're doing, Gene. You've built a legacy there in Wake Forest. I have two questions. For those people who cannot physically volunteer, do you accept contributions or seeds, or what other ways can people be involved if they can't, for physical reasons, volunteer?
Yeah, both organizations would greatly appreciate any financial resources that folks want to do to contribute. And we characteristically have that occur each year. Individuals just are interested in providing financial resources to make sure that the garden functions overall, and that ChurchNet is able to be carried out, the goals and activities. So financial contributions are always welcome. There are other things behind the scenes that can be done with both organizations. We do have all the seeds we need. That's a good thing.
Yes.
But there are other things that folks can do behind the scenes, and they can contact me directly for specific items. It can be organizing seed. It can be organizing our facilities. It can be assisting with data entry. So there are various things that people can do that they don't physically have to get in the garden. At the garden, we also have a bench that we'd love for people to come and just sit and watch.
Yeah.
If you're not able to work in the garden, we need some folks that can provide that oversight and maybe some of that wisdom that they've garnered over the years to those of us who are out there trying to work in the garden. And so it's always great to have a person to come and occupy the bench at the garden and to direct from there.
That sounds wonderful, Gene. And one last question. I notice in the photographs there's some young children there. Is there an age limit on how young you can bring people? I know you have some liability concerns, but how young is the youngest person we can bring with us?
I mean, we take everybody. There are always activities, and we have some things at the site that would occupy some very young children there. We have some playground equipment and things like that. But surprisingly, the kids are able to fellowship one with another, and they're out. If they're not sowing seed or they're not doing something in the garden, they're playing with our dogs that are residents, of the garden as well, or they're having fun playing with each other. And that's a good thing too.
Yes.
All around the garden.
Thank you, Gene. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank y'all for including those two organizations in your session today.
Oh, our pleasure. You can't do Hometown Heroes without talking about Gene Cross and those two organizations.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you, Gene.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Tenise Cottle. And Tenise, when I spoke with Tenise like a week ago, I'm like, man, I miss you because I haven't seen her in a while. But Tenise is here representing the Northeast Community Coalition here in Wake Forest, and they do a ton of really great things for the community and that section of town. And I work a lot, not only with Tenise, but also with her mom, Tilda, who I would be shocked if she wasn't listening right now. And so I just want folks to hear her name as well. She's humble. She's never one for the spotlight, but Tenise is more than capable to fill in and run through these slides. Betty, do you have something you'd like to add? I see you smiling in agreement with what I'm saying.
Absolutely. If you hadn't brought up Tilda Caudle's name, I certainly was going to insert it in there because she's another legend there in Wake Forest and has created a legacy, one of which is her wonderful daughter who will be presenting today.
That's right. All right, Tenise, it's all yours.
Thank you for those kind words, and I will be sure to relay them to my mom too on her behalf. Thank you very much for those kind words. Thank you for the invitation, the opportunity to come in and just talk a little bit about the Northeast Community Coalition. The Northeast Community Coalition is a grassroots resident-led community organization. We partner with several different organizations to bring resources and information to the Northeast and the greater Wake Forest area. Our mission, we aim to preserve the proud history of our community, promote and provide residents access to advancement opportunities, and to project a positive future for our neighborhood and the surrounding Wake Forest area, using a three-pronged strategy to include community investment, community improvement, and community involvement. A little background about how the NECC, that's what we call it for short, the NECC came about. Back in 2005, there were several resident community leaders that came together and that formed the Northeast End community organization. Later in 2007, they partnered with the town to address infrastructure and revitalization efforts. And then in 2012, we partnered with Olive Branch Baptist Church, Friendship, several other local churches under the direction and leadership of Habitat for Humanity. And under the Habitat for Humanity's leadership, we formally became the Northeast Community Coalition under their neighborhood revitalization section of Habitat for Humanity. So back in 2019, they stopped the revitalization program with Habitat for Humanity. So we still remained an organization because there were so many good things coming out as a result of our efforts with the NECC. So back in 2019, we started making moves to become our own standalone nonprofit organization. And we are a subsidiary of the North Carolina Community of Coalitions. That is, we fall under that umbrella, under that nonprofit umbrella. And the goal of the North Carolina Community of Coalitions is to have several grassroots, resident-led community organizations like the NECC in different towns and cities throughout the state of North Carolina. But with the Wake Forest Northeast Community Coalition, we have 5 priority groups, which consist of structure and sponsorship. They are responsible for getting funding for our projects, food security and wellness, and the biggest activity and event around that is the Northeast Community Garden, which Jen is going to talk about here shortly. And we also aim to provide healthy eating habits and nutritional information as well under that priority. Family, youth, and senior programming, just providing education and training for residents. Sponsors, well, I already did sponsorship and fundraising, housing and advocacy. And that's just promoting affordable housing and home preservation, community events. Our biggest event and activity under that priority is our annual Juneteenth celebration. Just a little bit of insight as to some of the activities and events that we aim to do. As I mentioned, our annual Juneteenth celebration, which is usually the 3rd weekend in June, and as a celebration of Juneteenth, freeing of the slaves. We've had a youth talent show. We've had a youth college and career readiness program, credit building, first time home buying seminars, which we partner with DHIC. We've partnered with the Northern Regional Center on several occasions, health fairs, food bank distribution opportunities and events, the Wake Forest Unity in the Community events. We partner with Step Up Ministries. We partner with the Community Meals Program, which you'll hear more about shortly. The Coat Drive. We still have a very strong partnership with Habitat for Humanity, and Dress for Success. Those are just a few. We have done several events and activities for the community over the past several years, and with the help of our partners, we've just been able to reach a lot of people and provide a lot of resources. If anyone has any questions, at this time, you can ask questions. And also, Ross, if you could bring up the PowerPoint.
Sure. Right here, the community meals.
For the PowerPoint for the Northeast End.
Oh, yes.
One more. Yeah. We do have volunteer opportunities available. If your high school student, middle school student need volunteer hours, we are 501c3. We can sign off for those volunteer hours. We anytime you all want to volunteer and come out, be a part of our events. We also have a monthly meeting that's held every third Monday. Right now we're doing the meetings via Zoom due to COVID. And if you want to connect with us, we're on social media outlets such as Facebook and Instagram. And the email address is also provided on this slide as well.
Denise, do you have to live in the Northeast sector to participate in activities that you host? Or are they open?
I can't hear you.
You can't.
Oh, she was asking.
Hold on one quick second.
Can she hear you, Ross?
I don't know. Denise? Well,
we can do it when we bring everybody back at the end. I'll write it down so I don't forget.
Okay, Miss Betty, can you repeat that, please?
We can do it when we bring everybody back at the end. I'll write it down so I don't forget.
Okay, Miss Betty, can you repeat?
All righty.
Okay, great job.
Yeah,
thank you, Denise.
Thank you, Denise. And then Joy, and a lot of what Denise spoke to involves Joy, and she is another hero. And again, she could not join us here today, but she is the Director of Youth and Outreach at St. John's Episcopal Church. And one of the things that I know she's heavily involved in, again, has to do with food security. And this specifically is doing community meals, which started off pre-pandemic as like a super popular way to get people together and to make sure that families could share at least one meal a day. But then the COVID hit and it got more complicated, but they were able to pivot very quickly into providing folks with casseroles and things like that. So, there's the pandemic sort of like did two things. Some things just shut down and other things just found a way to keep going. And so Joy,
that's what heroes do. That's what heroes do, Ross. They went through the fire, Yeah.
All right, so we have one more presenter, Jen Haas Stedler, who is also with the Northeast Community Coalition, and she's representing the community garden there. And Jen, if I'm not mistaken, Gene and Community Connections Garden has helped with at least the beginnings of this garden. So you begin to see some level of good coordination because all these heroes are working towards improving the community. So it makes sense that they would work together. And so Jen, I want to turn it over to you. Jen is somebody I've just met in the last couple of days, but just in the few moments we spoke together, she and Betty, I think you will agree, just strikes me as somebody that very much is wanting to do the right thing for the right reasons and to reach out to the community.
For sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, Jen, it's all you. Just let me know when you want me to progress the slide.
All right, great. Thanks. Hey, everybody, I'm Jen. I actually just moved to Wake Forest about a year ago, so I feel pretty honored that I was asked to come on here because there's a lot of veterans that have been working in the community for a long time. When I moved here, it was right in the middle of the pandemic, and so it was pretty challenging to figure out how to get connected in a safe way. And I was just really excited when I found out that there was a community garden right down the street from me, and just all the different people that I've been able to get connected with. It's just been really cool. I feel like I kind of got to jump in right at the right at the right time. I'm really thankful just for everybody else who who should be on here as well. T. Cottle or Theatric Cottle, and Tilda Galdo, Bonnie, Mwanda, Anjane, Joseph. Those are just like a few people that have just done a lot of good work for the garden. But yeah, so, and it's also just pretty cool because the community garden, one of our objectives is to give people a kind of safe space to come and connect within the community, and come and learn. And we were able to do an open house in July, and just everybody came out and we were able to do crafts for the kids, and just really cool what kind of what their mission is. If you go to the next slide, go to the next one after that. Thanks. So here is a picture of the lot before, which was just taken last year at this time. And the picture on the right is the picture of it. I think that was probably from like a few months ago, because we've gotten some more plants out in the front. But the lovely sign is from the town of Wake Forest. They've been such a great partner for us, helping with the sign and delivering wood chips, and the lot as well. Yeah, it's just been like really cool to be part of that. And the main objective, besides just having a place for the community to gather, is because of the NECC has identified food security as one of the top priorities here in this community. And we were able to formally distribute our produce to the Hope House and Olive Branch, who give out meals on Mondays and Wednesdays throughout the year. And yeah, it's just been really cool to kind of see it go from just a plot of land to become the garden that it is. And T is the one that was kind of the one that put it all together, and I feel like I just kind of like hopped on, but it's been really good. If you go to the next slide, this has all the information. So the website is the same one as the Northeast Community Coalition. The email is you'd get to me. So we we're kind of taking a break from volunteering right now, just why it's really cold. But we hope to kind of bring it back very soon. I feel like the holidays are going to go by, and then all of a sudden it's going to be ready to start prepping for springtime. We actually do have, we're having an event next Saturday, December 4th, from about 12 to 2. And it's just kind of more of like a low-key open house. So if you are interested, the address is down there. It's 504 North Taylor Street. It's down the street from Olive Branch Baptist Church, or the Alston Massenburg Community Center. And we'd love to have y'all join us. Yeah, it's just that I think the community garden is, and it was really cool listening to Jean talk about the community connections garden, because we're still in the beginning stages of the garden, and we actually were able to distribute 300 pounds of produce this year too, and that's how much they were able to give out on their first year. And so that's just really encouraging to see, like, okay, these are just like the baby steps, but what we're moving towards is really cool. But yeah, I would love to, and also just another thing, you can kind of see like in the top picture, there's kids running around. So it is really cool just how multi-generational just gardening can be in general. But it's been really fun to see parents bring out their kids, to having seniors come out and help with the garden. And so it's just been a really neat opportunity to kind of connect with lots of different walks of life. So if anybody has any questions or anything to say.
We have any questions, Jen, for you, but just know this: 300 pounds ain't bad. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of produce that would not otherwise have been out there. So that ain't
Yeah.
bad at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's my understanding that it takes a while for your soil to be prepared and ready to. I know my husband's a backyard gardener, and the first year or so, and Jean certainly can correct me, but I think it takes a while for you to get your soil right. I was wondering what types of fruits or vegetables you grew this year.
Yeah, so we were able to give out lots of different varieties of tomatoes and peppers. We had basil and mint. Let me see cucumbers. And then in the fall, we've been collecting collards and kale and turnip greens. So there's been like a lot of different things. And there were so many kind like nurseries and other things that donated plants to us. So it really has just been like a community outpour of like just helping us kind of get our feet on the ground and moving to help the community. So.
And just as I mentioned with Jane, I know that you can always use volunteers, but are financial donations welcome as well? And do they go to your website to figure out how to contribute?
Yeah, I would probably direct them to the website. I feel like a lot of like the financial stuff is more handled for the Northeast Community Coalition, not necessarily the garden. So there's like a team of people who do that. So I'm kind of more of the, I guess, boots on the ground and teas in the garden. So yeah.
Sure. Wow. Thank you, Jen. This was very interesting.
Yeah.
It's been a great.
I think we're going to bring everybody back on, if I'm not mistaken, just for one last. And Denise, so you're back and you can hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Sorry about that.
We had a question ready to go for you.
Sure, and I can go over a little bit about the Wake Forest Community Program, Community Meals Program as well.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yes. So back in 2017, Joyce Hillenberg, she had a vision. She identified a need for there to be a summer nutrition program while kids were out. She identified that school was sometimes the only meal, an opportunity that kids had to eat. So back in 2017, it started off as a summer meals program. And since then, it has expanded to a year-round initiative. And the Wake Forest Community Meals Program is a collaboration between more than a dozen churches and civic organizations in Wake Forest that come together and provide food security through hot meals and produce to the Wake Forest community. Since the origination of the organization, its mission has also expanded beyond feeding to include building relationships between church, community churches, residents, as well as other community organizations and partnerships to identify just insecurities in general in the Wake Forest area, as well as building some bridges with racial issues as well. So the community meals, they are distributed every Monday and Wednesday. Monday at the Hope House, starting at 5:00 p.m. until the food runs out. And on Wednesdays at Olive Branch Baptist Church, and that starts at 6:00 until the food runs out. And we have gotten contributions from Heritage High School. They've collected donations for diapers, sanitary products, toiletries. We've just had a lot of just organizations donate, a lot of churches, St. John's, Page 158 Books, Northeast Wake Backpack Buddies, Wake Forest United Methodist Church, Hope House, George Shaw, Olive Branch Baptist Church. The list goes on. This has just been really a collaborative effort to address food insecurity in Wake Forest. Another project and effort that Wake Forest Community Meals Program was involved in over the summer was the Wellington Park situation, where 40 families were ultimately and unfortunately displaced. And the Wake Forest Community Meals Program provided meals every Tuesday during their resident meetings as well. And that was another outreach program through the Wake Forest Community Meals Program organization. And like I said, each week it could be fresh produce or shelf stable foods. It's just a variety of foods and just household items that people need as well. And there are volunteer opportunities through Sign Up Genius. If you go to signupgenius.com and search Wake Forest Community Meals, you should be able to sign up if you would like to volunteer. And if you would like to make donations as well, there's contact information on one of the slides there.
Thank you, Denise. That is such great information. And I would like to emphasize that if Joy was here, I know that she would also say that community is the biggest part of the Wake Forest Community Meals, that she expects people to connect with each other and not just come for food or eat a meal. So thank you for representing her organization. And one last question I'd like to ask of all the panelists. Are there other unmet needs that you have noticed in the work that you do? A lot of work is around food and food insecurity, but what other unmet needs have not been addressed in your opinion? And I guess start with Jean. You've been at it the longest here.
I would say one of the things that we're looking at the Community Connections Garden is the installation of a well. Right now, the garden irrigates. All of the garden is under irrigation, but we use city water. And of course, our ultimate goal is to look at the prospects of putting in a well there at the garden that would, enable us to get away from community water or city water and use well water there in the garden. So that's a major need that's been there for quite a while.
Okay, great. Anybody else?
I would say for the Northeast Community Coalition, our biggest need is resident involvement, resident inclusion. We really would like for the residents to be more involved with, because our organization is a resident-led organization, just getting them more involved with some of the activities as well as the meetings, because the goal is to help identify and meet the needs of the residents, but in order for us to identify that, we have to have their input and their participation as well.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you all. This has been really informative, and I know it's going to be helpful for community members who are looking for resources. Don't you think, Ross?
I absolutely agree. And it's like you go into the holidays, and this is what makes these folks, they're all heroes, obviously. But even if you just look at the Food Security Initiative, folks will tell you that
great partner for us.
Food pantries fill up like this time of year, but it's January, February, March, April. That's when it gets tough. But that's when all the folks you see on your screen are still doing what they do and still giving back to the community. So thank you for that.
Yes.
And I think I would add to that, Ross, having fresh fruits and vegetables is critical. I mean, those things that are offered through the food pantries are staple items. But having the luxury of having nutritious local food specifically grown in your area for consumption is really, really important to folks.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I'll jokingly, my wife and I, and I'm sure we're not alone, like we'll be watching TV at night, eating potato chips and sweets. We're like, why are we still hungry? And it's because our body's not getting any nutrition from that. So we just keep eating it. But yeah, to your point, I mean, it's, that's the trick. It's not just to provide the food, it's to provide the right kinds of food to help people to be healthy, especially now during a pandemic, but always, certainly.
And we hear that from our partners like Tri-Area Ministry come to us directly and say, you don't know how much this produce means to the individuals who are actually getting it. So that's a real important thing that we need to hear and we need to keep doing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gene. Thank you. Okay, well, Betty, I think it's time for closing thoughts. We're coming up on a minute left to go.
Yes.
What a great panel. What a great show. Thank you all again so much.
Thank
you. That this publicly. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thanks for including us.
To our hometown heroes. As we close, I would like to, a lot of what each of you talked about was living your faith in the faith community. And this morning, Bishop Michael Curry was interviewed on NBC, and he said, Thanksgiving is an attitude, giving thanks, and an action, giving. So we have to do both. And I think that this group is representative of the community in Wake Forest and Roseville, that we not only are thankful for what we have, but we're also giving of what we have and sharing with our community. So you guys are slaying with that. You are doing it, and we are grateful for you because we know that your service is important to the families that we all are committed to working with. So thank you all, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
And it could not be said any better than that. So thank you all. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone on the screen and everyone listening and everyone that'll see this today, later, or tomorrow. Just thank you all so much. And I think we all have a lot to be thankful for. And so let's not lose sight of that. It's sometimes easy to focus on what we don't have and we lose sight of what we do have. So, this is that time of year where you do a little reflection. So I'm happy to know everybody I'm looking at right now. And Rachel behind the screen. Rachel, you want to pop on real quick? You don't. She's helping her daughter at her high school. So she's doing like triple duty today. But just thank you all so much and hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
You too. Happy
Bye.
Thanksgiving.
Bye.